Welcome to NexTec Group's new on-demand webinar series. Today, we're discussing the top transportation and logistic challenges faced by our customers. I'm your host, Dan Wu, and we'll be diving into the 5 ways a top TMS can optimize more of your supply chain. You'd be surprised at how much and how many similarities there are between mid-market companies like yourself and Fortune 100 companies. We are going to uncover how you can achieve more savings and how to do it right. Joining us today are Jim Gross and Natasha Laszchuk at NexTec Group. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Natasha, along with industry veteran Shannon Vaillancourt, CEO of RateLinx. Together, they bring over 30 years worth of experience in the logistic and technology industry. Welcome, Jim, Natasha, and Shannon. Let's start with a quick round of introductions, shall we? Let's start with you, Jim.
Yeah, hi, Jim Gross here. I'm a client account manager for the NexTec team in the mid-market division. I've been with NexTec for about 23 years, been in the shipping, logistics, manufacturing industry for over 35 years, and last 25 in the software industry. So excited to be a part of this panel today.
All right, thanks, Jim. Hi, I'm Natasha. I am an account manager here at NexTec. I have the opportunity to work primarily with our North American Sage X3 clients. In previous lives, I have worked with other ERP solutions, and I've been in the ERP space for the better part of about 15 years. So before making the jump to consulting, I did work at several manufacturing companies. Most of them had started out as family businesses, and that's where I really found my passion for our clients in the mid-market and guiding them through the ERP landscape.
So I'm Shannon Vaillancourt. I'm the CEO here at RateLinx. I come more from a technical side of things. So back in the day, I was a implementer implementing shipping systems like ours that we have. I started back in the early 90s, mainly on the small parcel manifesting side, and kind of grew up working at other technology companies, WMS. So I got to learn all about the warehouse, know a lot about LTL, truckload, ocean throughout the 30 years. So looking forward to talking with everyone today. Thanks again for having me on.
Thank you all to our distinguished panelists. Those of you in operations and warehouse management on this webinar will know that managing parcel, LTL, and truckload can be extremely complex. Can each of you, our panelists here, share some of the ways businesses can simplify the complexity of the transportation network and streamline shipping cost and logistics? Jim, because you talk to our customers almost on a daily basis, can you tell us what you've heard from our client and their shipping solutions?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So one of the biggest challenges that I've seen over the years is, the old days was bringing your sales rep in from your LTL or truckload companies, and they'd give you an annual contract once a year, and that was the last time you heard from them. In today's world, shipping, logistics, it's changed so much, and with ERP solutions the way they are today, there's so many opportunities for our clients to be able to go out now, get a really good shipping solution software and bring it in-house. And in that way, they're actually able to manage their daily rates. They're able to choose carriers that are more, in line with the regions that they're shipping in, and also, being able to pack trucks the way that they need to. So, we've had several conversations with our clients who, that was the old way of doing business, and now we brought them into a new software situation here where they can actually take control over their shipping costs. The biggest thing that I've heard from our clients that have moved over is two things. One is the savings, tremendous cost savings when they start seeing this over, a day-to-day, month-to-month basis. But more importantly is the fact that they are now in control. They can see, where their shipments are going. They can track everything happening on a real-time basis, and they can also let their customers know when they can expect their shipments to arrive. One of our big clients in Houston, as soon as the truck leaves the gate, they can actually send a message to the client, letting them know that the truck's 4 hours away and you can expect to receive it at 3:45 today. These types of things didn't happen in the past, and with these solutions today, that's just giving our customers the stronghold that they need to be able to help their clients on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Jim. And Natasha, what have you been hearing from our Sage X3 customers regarding their shipping challenges?
Yeah, so I mean, we hear a couple of things. Definitely on our side, we deal with customers that are in a very specific industries. So we work with customers in food and beverage, and they sort of have their own unique challenges that we hear from them. Some of the more basic ones are how do I ship this? And that's not unique to just food and beverage. I mean, that is just, the number one shipping question. There are so many different ways. There's so many different modes. You can get, hybrid routes, intermodal, method. Um, how do I minimize delays, especially when it comes to, cold chain logistics or temperature sensitive items? Delays can be very costly. So, how do we find carriers that we trust? How do we build relationships with them? How can I be sure that I'm getting the best price? Am I how can I rate my carriers? That is also something that we hear a lot, as well as just being able to rate shop and get accurate rates in an economy where rates are changing hourly sometimes.
Right. So Shannon, you're the logistic and shipping expert here. So what do you think about some of these challenges that are posed to our current customers?
Yeah, I mean, these are the challenges that everybody faces. So being a Fortune 100 company or a small to medium-sized business, there's nothing different. I think the only thing that's changed over the years now is that the small to medium-sized business has access to a system like ours now that is used by Fortune 100s, has those capabilities, and allows you to put in, the carriers that you want, drop in the pricing that you negotiate, no matter how complex you may think it is. Now these systems today can handle it, and we can drop that in there so you can leverage the system to pick the right carrier for the right load at the right time, and really make it much easier for you, because that's usually what we hear from customers when they're looking to make a change to their system. It's usually because they either can't add certain carriers that they want to use, or there's certain move types that they're unable to process through the current system. And it's like, those days are gone now, I believe. You get into a system like ours, we are in the Magic Quadrant for TMS with Gartner. So it's a very robust system, and you just deploy the piece that you need out there, and that's what we're able to do. So you can start out small, and then grow into it, and you really have no reason to ever change from our solution once you get using it. So I think that's what's changed over the years, and that's where what Jim and Natasha said. That's what we're hearing from a lot of the customers, and that's the problem that we're solving.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shannon. And again, we're ERP implementers here and consultants. When a carrier's API doesn't work and there's downtime, we're often the first one to hear about it. So can you, do a little bit of quick dive into the challenges when a carrier's API is down and how exactly to solve that with your software?
Well, what we find is they're not down, is what we actually find. That's what we hear a lot of from customers when we take them over, is that was a main issue that they had with their old system. And once they come over, they realize that that's not really true. I mean, you think about the world that we're in today. For me, going back, I think about the early 2000s, late 90s, and it's like, oh yeah, then you definitely had issues. Internet. What if the internet was dial-up? So of course there were issues. This is 2024. The carrier's APIs aren't down like people think they are. And a lot of it, I think, just comes down to handling the load from customers to make sure that the software itself is written in a resilient way. That's always the term that we hear on the programming side, write resilient code. And we have several customers that do several 100,000 transactions a day through our software, and they don't have any issues. The carrier APIs are not down as often as people are told. And from the carrier side, you think about it, it behooves the carrier to make sure it's not down, because if their API is down, they're not getting shipments. So those days, I think, are long gone. So I think that's a myth that I would kind of chalk it up to.
Thanks, Shannon. And Jim and Natasha, do you often hear from customers complaining about the problems with their carriers? And why do they continue to work with the same carriers that aren't meeting their business needs? Natasha, let's start with you.
So yes, we do hear several stories from customers who are having issues with carriers. For example, on the side of our food and beverage clients, we had a client that was launching a new frozen product line. And at that time, they were experiencing with their carriers significant inefficiencies and delayed shipments. Again, this is cold chain transportation, so it did not get to the retailers on time. There are a lot of downstream effects. So there are a lot of different sort of checkpoints along the way that have to be managed, and you can't really manage what you don't see or measure, or you're not able to see on the screen in real time. Why do they keep on working with these carriers? Mostly because changing carriers or adding carriers is expensive. There's a huge cost associated with that. And you don't really know what you're getting into. You don't have a relationship with these new carriers like you do with the old ones. So you kind of know what to expect versus not knowing what to expect. It's difficult to negotiate good pricing, whereas if you've been with carriers for a long time, you may have longstanding contracts, and terms that you mutually respect. So oftentimes it's really that side of the relationship, which Jim actually mentioned earlier on, that really keeps our customers with carriers, even if they're not receiving the best service.
Thanks, Natasha. Jim, how about the Acumatica customers' perspectives?
Yeah, the big thing is everybody's evolved. Shannon pointed that out, and Natasha just pointed that out. I mean, everybody's evolving in this industry, and we don't have to have that personal handshake with one guy at the carrier anymore. I mean, what Shannon's software allows our customers to do is really just go out there and just get the best rates. His team has already worked with the carriers to get them on their software and get the negotiation set and everything, but when it comes down to it, I want to be able to tell my customer, if you need a shipment out at 9 o'clock in the morning and you need the best rate and you need to figure out a way to do it, you don't have to call 5 carriers in your region. You can just go to one software, put the numbers in there, and let the software do the work. And that's what takes the guessing game out of everything now. So, with the new software that we have, and we're able to integrate, I have my clients that love the fact that they can open up the shipment screen in Acumatica and immediately from there go shop for rates. I mean, that's huge. The fact that they don't have to pick up a phone, they don't have to leave their software and go to another one, and then it all comes right back into the Acumatica system. So, the fact that there's no transparency whatsoever, I mean, it's all right in front of them. They can see everything. They know exactly what they're getting, and they can tell their customer on the phone, in an email, whatever the case may be, that, hey, this is the best rate. This is going to get to you by the time that you need it. And Natasha, I don't deal a lot with the food and beverage industry, so we don't have those challenges, but we do a lot with chemicals in this side of the industry. And we know that that's critical as well, because you've got all the placards, you've got the hazmat, you got COAs that you got to deal with. This is a one-stop shop. And that's what makes it so unique for the industry now. And this is why it's working for our clients.
Shannon, I think Jim may have stolen some of your thunder, but I'll give you an opportunity to add to it.
Well, it's funny what Natasha was talking about with customers having a hard time changing carriers. It's funny. We have a pretty large customer, and everybody. It's a very well-known name brand out there. And when we first started with them, I remember sitting down with them and asking them, I'm like, hey, do you guys have a hard time adding new carriers? And they said, yeah, how do you know? And I said, well, it's because of your rules. Your rules are not really well spelled out. There's some gaps left in it. And the reason why I knew that was because we're trying to load this stuff into the software. And it's like, so what does this exactly mean? How do you exactly get this rate? And I mean, we had to almost interrogate some people to try to get an answer out of them. And the problem wasn't that they came up with some convoluted rule. The problem was that it had been in place for so long, and they're with the same carriers for so long that everybody just knew. Oh, I know what that means. And it's like, but it's not written down. So that's something that we find also where sometimes having an incumbent in there kind of gets you into those habits where it's a lot of shorthand. And then if you're not driving that through a system, a computer's objective. That's what I love about computers. There's no feelings, they don't call in sick. They don't feel like I just don't want to do it this way today or anything like that. It does exactly what you tell it to do every single time. And if you're not using a system or a robust enough system where you're doing a lot of workarounds, that's where making a carrier change can be a huge ordeal because there's just a lot of information that people don't know anymore, but the carrier somehow knows. So to me, that's always a huge opportunity right there is when the carrier's managing you and your transportation. That's something you should look at. And that's where a system like ours allows you to get out of that trap because we know transportation really well. So not only do you get the software, but you get the service side of us, and that's the people side where we know this industry. And because we have these larger customers, we also understand different types of moves that you're making, and we can offer those best practices to help you fill those gaps in the agreement. So we can make that change be a lot less onerous than it used to be. And then, not only can you quickly add those carriers, if there are no real big rule changes, now you've got one system that just has everything in it and all of your rules are spelled out. So it gets rid of a lot of that subjectivity. So that's why I think what Natasha was saying, I kind of was chuckling in my head thinking about, I run into this actually a lot more often than you think. And that's why people usually stay with the incumbent. And then the second reason why they stay with the incumbent, it's usually on the software side, because now to make a change in the software is also can be very not only labor intensive, but expensive. And that's where we're different. We don't charge for that stuff. Whether you're changing from UPS to FedEx or you're adding LTL carriers, or maybe you're doing truckload, we've got a spot quoting tool where you can invite your own carriers on there. You just click a button. You could add 50 carriers today to it, and it'll take you 5 minutes. No big deal. Again, we built the software with this in mind. You have to be able to adapt and make changes because companies are going to grow. They're going to make acquisitions, or they're going to change product lines, or just flat out carrier rules are going to change. They have to have an easy way to do that. Otherwise, the software no longer is helping. It's hurting now. And I think that's where we've come in and really noticed that customers have taken advantage of that. And it's really unlocked a lot of opportunities that they know they've wanted to do and they've just haven't been able to do in the past.
Yeah, speaking of not being a computer or robot, I could tell you I certainly have the feels on Monday sometimes, right? but on the topics of switching software, Jim and Natasha, I'm pretty sure we've worked with clients in the past that just aren't ready to add new technology to their tech stack. Can you give the audience here some advice as to why the if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality is really not making their lives much easier? Jim?
Yeah, sure. And that's really, I'm old school. I mean, I go back to the DOS days of computers, and I completely understand that and that resistance to change. but look, we've got to keep up with the times. I mean, the one thing that NexTec does a really good job of is we keep our clients updated on, what's currently out there, what's going to benefit them, and we're not trying to make their life miserable. But the biggest thing that, challenge that we have is, I don't have the time to do that. I don't have time to, take on a 6-month implementation. Look, most of these systems that we're offering, like RateLinx, it's 30 days or less, right? And because, Shannon's team has the expertise, when you look at a software provider, you got to look at 2 aspects of it. Does the software do its job? Yes. Is there good customer service on the back end? Because that's what you're going to deal with, right? Once the software is up and running, now it's all on the customer service team. And how do I do this? How do I add this functionality? How do I change this rate? How do I change this feature? To Shannon's point, there's so many rules in the industry today. So we try to take that away from them and let them know that if your team is focused, these implementations can not disrupt your day, but actually, look at it from a, let's get it done right, let's test it, and let's get it live, and move on with it. And then that's when they can start seeing the benefits of, moving into a software like this. So we just have to open up their minds a little bit to understand that this is not a 6-month or year-long process. It can be done well if we do the discovery, do the design, and do the implementation. It can be done well in a short period of time and allow them to focus on everything else they need to do.
Thanks, Jim. And Natasha, you don't have to agree with Jim.
No, I was about to say, I think Jim nailed it. So I don't have anything to add to that. I have nothing to add to that.
Awesome.
Because I'm just going to be repeating what you said. So it doesn't make any sense.
And Shannon, what do you want to add to the topic?
Yeah, I mean, that's why when we work with NexTec and their customers, I think that's where the partnership really shines and it brings value to the customer. And that's why we've taken this approach. We want to work with partners and develop a great partnership because it's going to help the implementation process. We have a lot of things that are pre-built, so that way we're not taking any time doing the basic stuff, getting the software connected, or all that's done. That way we focus on the customer's needs and we can focus on what's very specific to them. And then that's the little piece that we have to do. So that's how we're able to do this so quickly. And then not only deliver a really nice solution, but it's almost customized to each customer that we deploy in. And we're able to do that through how our software is architected. The real term is extensible. It's an extensible software, so we can extend its capabilities and deliver a customized feel that the customer has, but yet they can still take a version upgrade, because, we were all taught that there's 2 sure things in life, death and taxes. Well, there's actually 3: death, taxes, and a rate change. So you have to be able to take that carrier rate change and the, especially on the UPS and FedEx side of things, if you're a small parcel shipper, you have to be on the latest version. And we're architected in a nice way to do that. So everybody is on the latest version, but yet we can deploy very quickly and do a customized kind of deployment because of our partnership, I think, with NexTec and how we've already ironed out the basic stuff under the hood.
Thanks,
Yeah, Dan, I'd like to add one more thing to that. So
Absolutely.
one of the great things I think NexTec has done, both on Natasha's team and our team, is we help our clients understand that you don't have to bite everything off in the first phase, right? That you do a phased approach. So get the basics in the system, right, and get it up and running so you can get your rates, start getting your shipments out. Then you add all the bells and whistles, right? You come back and say, okay, now let's look at the nice to haves, and that's where I think we can really come along beside them and say, what do we have to have right away, day one, be able to ship your product out the door. And then what are the nice features that we can add, phase 2, phase 3 type time frame. So a lot of times we'll get the basics installed, get them up and running, let them go off and do something else, and then come back 3 to 6 months later and say, okay, now we're using the software. Let's really start to add some different functionality that's going to, help us shine with our clients as well. So I think that's one great thing that Shannon's team does, and we've been able to see the results of that as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jim, for that additional insight. Now, Shannon, let's talk about return on investment a little bit. We know for most of our customers that have already invested heavily into a top-tier ERP system, they are looking to optimize their entire transportation management cycle. What sort of saving do you expect to see from a ShipLinx TMS customer, and what would be then offset the cost of a TMS implementation?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost eye-popping, the numbers that I've seen our customers be able to produce in savings. We've got customers that if they're rolling out the auction platform for spot quoting, where they're able to save, upwards of $500 a load. So, I mean, just do the math on that. If you've got how many spot quotes going out, how many truckload shipments, and you could save $500 on each, that's a lot. I mean, percentage-wise, I usually look at around 5 to upwards of 15, maybe even more percentage. But, when we, first deploy, there's usually that initial, 5 to 10% savings that they're going to get. And then from there, like the phased approach that Jim was talking about, that's where once we get kind of that information in here, and now you can see, okay, what if we turn on this other part? We can build that business case. It's a lot easier to turn that on and figure that out. But I think the sky's the limit, really. It just comes down to, I think, the customer and how much they want to really embrace the fact that they have the technology. But I mean, minimum that we see is 5%, and I've seen upwards of 40. I don't know if I'll see that too often, but I have seen it from time to time come across.
That's still a significant amount of savings, for sure. So
I
this one's
also I want to add something.
sure.
There's also the indirect savings, right? So you have a much more efficient team. Shannon is talking about really, at the bottom line, what are we seeing in terms of savings? But many of our customers have large teams that are, prior to implementing a TMS, they have large teams that are all managing the tariff management or the rate management. And, rather than needing, 10 people, to be managing all of these different items, you can put it into the system and virtually within, 2 minutes, you're done. So A, there's a time savings. B, your team could be out doing more efficient things and really, being the brains behind how we're going to get this out and how we're going to meet our targets, but it's there's a lot of savings all the way down the chain.
Yeah, and that's something I probably don't talk about much, because companies handle it very, some handle it differently. I mean, if we're doing the full solution of RateLinx for a customer, so that's going to involve TMS, it's going to have freight audit in there as well, then that whole rate maintenance goes away. We're maintaining your rates for you. We do all of that rate setup. If we're auditing those invoices, we're going to also handle the rate discrepancy with the carrier. We have a customer that I actually did a live stream with this morning, and they're a $5 billion a year company, and they have 3 people on the transportation side. And that's because of the stuff that we do for them, that they don't have to hire somebody to manage those contracts anymore. So that way he's got people that are focused on the business side, leveraging all of the tools that he has, not only the TMS, but the ERP, to drive the business forward and try to achieve as much savings as possible. That's why when I say, if you truly embrace this, man, the sky's the limit, I feel like, on what you could achieve.
Thanks again, panelists, for your excellent and insightful answers. So Natasha, Jim stole your thunder a little bit earlier, so I'm gonna let you go first on this one. Let's talk about the difficulty of changing ERP systems and processes for business. As you're well aware, and Shannon mentioned earlier, rate changes is a constant, but the other constant I think that we see often in our business is upgrades. There are constant ERP upgrades and or changes to ERP systems despite the difficulties. Can you talk a little bit about what issues that you've come across in regards to, adding systems like the RateLinx system to an ERP when they're in the process of an upgrade or in the process of changing their ERPs?
Well, we haven't had any issues on the RateLinx side, but I can definitely say in general, when folks are adding third parties or add-ons or undergoing upgrades, you know, they often have their hands tied because they're either very limited in what they can do, or the upgrade, the new release may not be compatible, and they only find that out during, let's say, their pilot. There are many different items that can sort of creep up that can be unexpected. We want our customers to be able to take advantage of the latest, features and enhancements of these upgrades. And we don't want them to have to worry about whether or not their shipping solution is going to be compatible with the latest, Sage X3 release. They've got enough to manage and handle, so that really shouldn't be one of them. In today's technological ecosystem, there really isn't any reason or excuse to have a situation where you're implementing an upgrade and something else goes down. So having Shannon's team, and being able to get that managed, tested, and just having a team there to be overseeing all of that has been incredibly helpful.
And Jim, what's your thought?
Yeah, so a slightly different take, and I agree with what Natasha was saying. But the nice thing about an Acumatica upgrade for our SaaS clients is they get a 90-day sandbox environment, right? So if they do their UAT early on in that 90 days, they still have it. A lot of times we can even extend that. That's where we do, from time to time, bring in a new solution into that sandbox environment and allow them to do some testing in there. It's a free sandbox, and they can do their testing and try to bring on an ISV partner. So that does work from time to time. We never recommend that for our heavily customized clients who are taking all 90 days. But some of our easier clients that they say, you know what, I'm thinking about bringing on the solution. When's a good time? That's when we do offer it, and it seems to work out well for them. So again, to Natasha's point, we want to focus primarily on the upgrade, getting that new software and getting the new features, functionality. But if we have the time to do it in that 90 days, we will certainly offer that to our clients.
Great. And Shannon, can you tell us more about why it's important to find a shipping solution that's extensible and extends the power of any ERP?
I think just, part of this upgrade process as well is one of the nice things about our solution where, we do have a test environment always for our customers. So when they, join us, they get both environments all the time. And that extensibility is how we integrate to all these different solutions. So we don't have to go through a very large process to get the upgrade deployed. So if, for example, a customer upgrades their ERP and some user-defined field in the new version is coming across differently, we can quickly go into that little piece of code, and that's the extensible part of the code, and make that change and deploy it just for that customer. So, we're built with speed in mind around that side, and that's what the extensibility is. The whole carrier compliance, UPS rates, FedEx labels, all that stuff, that's standard product. And we have a team that manages that and maintains it, keeps us up to date. That never gets customized. FedEx is what it is, UPS is what it is. What we need to be able to adapt to quickly is customers' rule changes and ERP upgrades. If there's any, touch point, as I like to call it, changes that we have there within ERP. And that's how we're architected through the extensibility side of us.
Thank you, Shannon.
I also just wanted to say, so, with our customers, whether I've introduced you to them, if they've had the pleasure of already meeting, Shannon and the RateLinx team or not, when we talk with our customers about their priorities in looking for a TMS, just to second what Shannon was saying, is at the top of that list is really the ability to integrate with third-party solutions, to get freight visibility, be able to connect to the systems for digital freight brokers. So customers expect that to be a standard offering.
Yeah.
Great.
So if it's not up and working, it's not only, for shipping solutions that don't include that, it's just, that those times are gone. Like it has to have that.
Yeah.
Sorry for cutting you off, Natasha.
No worries.
Any last words? Anything any of our panelists here wants to add to this discussion?
I think the biggest thing is, we want to make sure that we do this thing, in a methodology standpoint. So, we want to make sure we have the discovery call first with the, with the SMEs at the client, and also, the team members at, like RateLinx here. That's important. We need to understand what it is the client's looking for, what it is that they're trying to implement, and then with our expertise along with RateLinx, put the project plan together so they can see it now and understand, how much time it's going to take, the cost it's going to take, and, what we're expecting from their team to be involved with. So I think if we can lay that out, which we've done a great job doing, that's going to make this whole process go so much easier in their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you to Jim, Natasha, and Shannon for also talking about real world scenarios to bring to these challenges into perspective for us and how to solve them. This wraps up our discussion for today. Again, thank you, panelists, for sharing your insight on how to optimize your supply chain and by adding end-to-end TMS to your tech stack to save more on shippings. If you're interested, please reach out to your customer account manager, such as Jim or Natasha, to schedule a ShipLinx TMS demo, or email info@nextecgroup.com for more information. Appreciate it. Thank you all so much, Jim, Natasha, and Shannon. It's been a great pleasure. This concludes our recorded webinar for today.